We do want to turn now to another developing story that we are tracking, the increasing likelihood of a government shutdown in the next few days. The White House now threatening mass firings of federal workers if the government shuts down, with funding set to lapse in less than a week and Congress deadlocked on a way forward. According to a memo obtained by NBC News, the White House's Office of Management and Budget is asking federal agencies to prepare for a, quote, reduction in force, indicating it's prepared to go beyond traditional furloughing of non-essential personnel during a shutdown and instead fire federal employees. Top Democrats in Congress slamming the threat. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer calling it an attempt at intimidation. And House Democratic Leader Jeffries called OMB Director Ross Vogt a, quote, malignant political hack. Speaking in the Oval Office today, the president blamed Democrats for a potential shutdown, calling their demands unreasonable. Democratic congressional leaders were supposed to meet with President Trump today, but he canceled that meeting. The message from the White House in lockstep with top Republican leaders on Capitol Hill.
The president draws his own conclusions, but what I would suggest, and I think the president came to the conclusion that it wouldn't be a productive meeting. The Democrats' requests are completely unhinged and unreasonable and unserious. And if they want to have a serious conversation, I think that, I'm sure the president would be welcome or would be happy to do that. But at least right now, what they're asking for to keep the government open for 7 weeks is over $1 trillion in new spending and all kinds of policy riders that never go on continuing resolutions.
Now, Democrats, meanwhile, are accusing the president of running away from negotiations. Here was House Minority Leader Jeffries earlier today.
Republicans have decided they don't want to even have a conversation with Democrats to reach a bipartisan agreement. If Donald Trump really believed that he had a strong position here, then why'd you back out of the meeting, bro? Why? I don't understand. Let's have this debate in front of the American people.
Now, notably, it was this exact scenario, firing employees and cuts to the federal workforce, that pushed Senator Schumer to vote with Republicans 6 months ago to advance a stopgap funding bill and avoid a shutdown, despite fierce blowback from some in his own party. At the time, Leader Schumer warned Democrats that the president would use a shutdown to amass more power over the government by firing workers. Now, Senate Minority Leader explaining why he believes circumstances have changed.
Three things are different. One, we've seen how bad, and the American people have seen how bad Trump's policies are. And second, they have shown that they're willing to go around the law if we don't stop them from that. And they've had these rescissions, they've had these impoundments, and they've just illegally, in certain ways, not funded the government, and that's even without a shutdown. And third, we Democrats are united now. We are totally united in saying we want to sit down, we want to negotiate. We're not going to get everything we want. They're not going to get everything they want. But to help deal with the chaos in health care caused by this big, so-called beautiful bill.
Joining me now is NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez, and also with me from Capitol Hill is NBC's Mel Zanona. Thanks to both of you for being here as we count down the minutes to a potential shutdown. Gabe, let me start with you. This threat from the federal government to fire workers if this shutdown does in fact happen. Who is most at risk, and how serious is the White House, Gabe?
Oh, the White House is very serious, Kristen. And before I get to that, I just want to point out that Senator Schumer, in that interview you just played, said that Democrats are united now, implying that they were not united before. And so the White House really is taking this fight to Democrats. And you played earlier today, President Trump using that language, blaming Democrats for this impending shutdown. And at this point, Kristen, it does appear that we're heading in that direction because there's no meeting in the books. And from my conversations with White House officials, unless the Democrats back off and they want more than $1 trillion in spending, according to Senator Thune, unless they back off on that in some way, President Trump does not plan to meet with them. So those jobs most at risk, you're right. Usually it's non-essential workers during government shutdowns that are affected. In this case, according to that memo, it is also workers that are involved, that programs that don't are not consistent with the president's priorities. Sorry, I was looking through my notes there, Kristen. But this opens up the possibility that many of these programs might be gutted, not just for the length of the shutdown, but permanently.
Well, Mel, let me head over to you on Capitol Hill, because as Gabe is pointing out, look, this was really the crux of Schumer's argument the last time he had a fight over government spending, saying, I'm not government, because it will be a green light to President Trump, to Elon Musk at the time, to basically fire a whole bunch of federal workers. Now President Trump is basically saying, yep, that's exactly what he's going to do. From your vantage point, based on your conversation with sources, do you think Leader Schumer is going to back down, Mel?
Well, I can tell you that at least among Republicans, there is a growing belief that Democrats and Schumer are ultimately going to cave, especially after this new threat of mass layoffs for the federal workforce in the event of a shutdown. But so far, Democrats are not backing down. And in fact, they're digging in even harder. Multiple congressional Democrats came out today, including the leadership, and slammed this memo from the budget director as a, quote, intimidation tactic designed to bully them into folding. And they insisted they would not do that. They would continue to stand up and that this wasn't going to change their calculation. But no doubt, this new memo certainly raises the stakes dramatically ahead of the shutdown next week. The federal workforce was already reeling. They were decimated and demoralized from those DOGE cuts. So a shutdown without paychecks on top of additional layoffs would be a disaster. And as you mentioned, Schumer's reasoning for helping Republicans keep the government open earlier this year was that Trump and the OMB director were going to make a shutdown as politically painful as possible. But at least as of now, Democrats are pretty confident that Republicans will be to blame for that political pain.
Yeah, and we know that Democrats are basically viewing this as a way to dig in on something they've long talked about, these subsidies for Obamacare, but also their base saying this is a way to stand up to President Trump. Gabe, you have reports that it was Speaker Johnson and that it was Leader Thune who urged the president to cancel that meeting with top Democratic lawmakers. Is that accurate? What are you hearing?
Yes, that is accurate. It was congressional leadership that made the point to the president that, look, this is not advantageous to you. The Republicans believe they are in a stronger position and that they have the leverage over the Democrats here. Even though they need Democrats to pass the CR, they really do think that they have the upper hand here and that the American people will blame Democrats for this shutdown if it happens. And that's why you hear all-out messaging from White House officials. We heard Caroline Leavitt earlier this week in a press briefing and conversations with White House officials today. They keep hitting that point that they plan to go all out and blame Democrats for any potential shutdown, Kristen.
Mel, we're just over 5 days away. Do you see any off-ramp at this point, based on your reporting, based on your conversations there on the Hill?
So things do tend to come together pretty quickly or at the last minute when Congress wants to. We've seen in past shutdown threats that they right up until the last minute were threatening shutdowns and then came together literally in the 11th, sometimes 12th hour. But in this case, there is no obvious off-ramp. The two sides are not talking. The only meeting that was scheduled between Trump and Democrats was canceled with not another meeting on the books. And the House is not even scheduled to be back in D.C. until after the government funding deadline passes, essentially conceding that there is going to be a shutdown of some length unless something changes. So they are in a very high stakes game of chicken right now. Someone's going to have to blink or else there is going to be a government shutdown next week.
All right. Well, we watch and wait to see every twist and turn and hold our breath as we wait to see how this all ends. Gabe and Mel, thank you so much for your great reporting. We really appreciate it.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.